Hello designers, this is Angie from Raveners Design Academy. Welcome back if you're already subscribed, and welcome here if you're new. Today's video is going to be a bit lengthy because it's a juicy topic. We're talking about surface imperfections. This was requested by one of our community members here on YouTube. What are surface imperfections, you say? Well, they're specks of dirt, scratches, scuffs, smears, and prints that we may never notice on real-life surfaces while going about with our lives. Yet they exist. Why are we talking about them? Well, these little imperfections that we barely notice are the reason why renders look off or odd, simply unrealistic. Render engines only see what we tell them exists, and we normally use spotless, clean textures in creating our renders that in the end, every single surface or reflection is so flawless to the point of being unrealistic. That's what surface imperfections are and why they're important for creating a realistic render. Of course, to add in surface imperfections, you'll need maps or texture images made specifically for that purpose. These texture images work hand in hand with the material's texture to give you the look and feel of a real-life object that has been handled or used by someone at some point in time. I'll elaborate on that more as we progress through the video. There is quite a few factors that contribute to a realistic render, like atmosphere, depth of field of view, and the list goes on. If you'd be interested in knowing more about them, leave a comment below or message me on one of my social media accounts and I'll be happy to create a video. Now let's get this tutorial going. As you can see here, I have a few objects set up that I downloaded from 3D Warehouse and that I've test rendered to see what I'm dealing with. There are quite a few glitches to be fixed, but I'll get to fixing them before rendering again. Now first, I'll start by adding some imperfections to the glass. By that, I mean a few smudged fingerprints that you would normally see on any glass surface that hasn't been wiped clean with a glove on. Because who wipes down glass with a glove on unless we're in a museum? To add imperfections to glass, you'll need to add them in as a glossiness map. Simply click the texture icon and browse for your desired image. I've downloaded a few surface imperfection textures or maps from polygon.com and surfaceimperfections.com. By the way, these are the free download samples, so I'll link them in the description box below for you to check them out. Once the smudge map is loaded, you'll notice that now the glass looks kind of dirty, and that's what I'm aiming for here. Moving on, I'll head to the metal, which is looking more like a bronze mirror at the moment. So to fix that, I won't come near the reflective aspects of the metal. Instead, I'll load in some scratches as a bump map. My VRay is glitching because I have a problem with my graphics card drivers, but it'll clear out in a second and you'll see the results. Voila! Metal now looks a bit worn out and used. For the purpose of this video, I'm going to be exaggerating some of these imperfections to be extra clear, in case some of you are watching this tutorial via mobile. Next, I'm going to add in some dust to the marble tabletop. Like the glass, I'll load the texture as a glossiness map, but this time, instead of choosing bitmap, I'll go for color correction. This enables me to correct the image from VRay itself instead of having to tweak it in Photoshop. That means I can play around with the contrast, the brightness, the saturation, etc. You'll notice here that the image I'm choosing as a texture for the dust is white on black instead of black on white like the other textures. To correct that, as soon as I load in the bitmap for the color correction, in color manipulation, I'll choose invert texture. Then I'll fix it in color correction. By turning the contrast all the way up and lowering the brightness, I'll be able to see the smudges on the texture and it's going to be black on white exactly like all the others. As you can see here, the reflection for the marble, even though the reflection glossiness is at 1, which is full, it looks a little bit fogged up or a little bit blurred, which is giving me the dust effect that I want. It's not ideal, but I'll find out more after I test render this and know what's going on exactly. Now that I'm done adding imperfections to all the other surfaces, I just want to show you over here that the wall, I didn't choose a smooth color for the surface. Instead, I've added cellular as the bump map, tweaked it up a little bit, which is something that I've seen happen a lot in VRay default materials, and I like the idea behind it, to be honest. This adds roughness to a wall's texture in a way that's actually realistic, because no wall is as smooth as a very flat surface, as in like a mirror or a piece of glass. I'm going to add a little bit of reflection as well, which really helps a lot with making a wall look realistic, because every surface is reflective of light no matter what type of material it has applied to it. I'm going to paste the cellular texture map or the cellular texture as a reflection color as well, so all the protruding parts are reflective and the receding parts aren't. For the diffuse itself, I used a mix operator as my diffuse. Color A is the color that I chose for the wall. Color B is basically a smoke texture. This kind of gives uneven color to the wall, which is also realistic, instead of the usual very flat color that we usually apply to walls that gives it an unrealistic feel or an unrealistic vibe. For the base of this plant pot, I'm going to add in another texture as a color correction. Same method I used earlier, but this time it's black on white already, so I don't need to do much, instead of just adjust the intensity of it, so it gives me the result that I'm looking for. Now that I'm all set to test render this, give this a try. Of course, I'm going to stop the test render. I'm going to tweak a little bit, but I mean, designer life, right? Now that I've test rendered, you can see that I have a few minor issues. Like in the glass and the metal, they don't really have texture images as the diffuse, so I can't really control how big or how small the texture image looks. This is not the result I'm looking for. I'm taking this opportunity to fix whatever is wrong with these objects so I can see the results more clearly.
A few moments later.
The texture images are too small to the point of being just little blurs. So I'm going to adjust that by loading texture maps for the materials themselves without affecting the end result, but for me to be able to see how big or how small the imperfections are. Now to load in these texture images, basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to load in the imperfection map for the glass, turn up the opacity so I can see everything, and then I'm going to be fixing up the texture map by projecting it as world. You can see here that it made quite the difference. So I'm going to fix the other pot. Project as world, there we go. Now to do the same thing to the metal. The objects themselves are a little bit glitched, so I'm going to fix that by using the Solid Inspector tool, which is a lifesaver to be honest. And then I'm going to project the texture as world. I've done the same thing to the table off camera or while not recording. So now I think I'm ready to test render this. As you can see here, I'm checking my materials to make sure that nothing is being replaced, and I'm going to lower the bump value as well so it's not so prominent. Same thing with the glass, I'm checking in. Nothing changed. I'm going to save and test render this. But before I do, I'm going to fix this cactus a little bit. I'm sorry about that. Now that it's done, let's test render. You can see here the result of the dust on the marble tabletop just completely wiped out the texture itself. So I'm going to fix that by merging my imperfection map with the diffuse by using the mix operator. For texture A, I'm going to load in my marble. And for texture B, I'm going to load in my dirt or my dust. This time I'll be using a different texture because I'm aiming for a different result. And for the operator, I'm going to use multiply A by B. You can see now that the dirt or the dust itself has become part of the texture, so it's not going to wipe it out. As for glossiness, I'm going to keep it as it is. I already loaded in the wiped dirt or the wiped dust texture in, and it's already affecting my reflection. To be able to control this more, I'm going to load in my imperfection map as a color correction, and I'm going to brighten it up a little bit because I need a little bit more shine on my surface. You can see that after I amped up the brightness, the shine or the reflection on the surface is a little bit better. Next, I'm going to be adding in a normal map for that. and choosing the rendering space linear. Then change the map mode to normal map and leave it on tangent space as it is. You can see here when I chose the wall close-up preview, it looks like there is some smears on the surface, and this is what I'm looking for. At first it looked a little bit odd, now it looks perfect for me. So I'm going to test render on this. I re-rendered the textures without the imperfections, but with the fixed objects, and then I loaded in the render with the imperfections as well, so I can show you the difference between the two of them. You can see here that the glitched objects weren't giving me the result that I wanted, and it made everything look a little bit distorted. And with the new render, it looks okay. I'll load in the one with the imperfections, and you can see the difference now. It's huge. The glass looks more realistic. The candelabras look more realistic. The surface of the table, the sides of the table, everything. Even the cactus looks realistic, or it looks better than it did before. So yeah guys, that's it for today's tutorial. Make sure you like this video if you found it useful, and subscribe if you aren't so you get more videos like this every week. I'll put in the images of before and after so you can see them more clearly, and thank you for watching. Happy designing!